Hello student, welcome to the classical mechanics course. Last time we had considered the applications of the Newton's laws of motion. In that we thoroughly gone through these different kinds of the application, starting from the projectile motion. After that we discussed the rocket motion, and at the end we discussed the motion of the charged particle in electric, in magnetic, and in electromagnetic field. We already talked about, and each application has its fantastic application in the real life, because if we look at these projectile motion part, so there are n number of application we can see in the technology field, in the real life field. So there are n number of application of each and every applications. In rocket motion we thoroughly discussed the same mass system, where the mass of the system is continuously changing. So this is quite different system as we discussed previously than that of this system we discussed, where the velocity of the system is continuously changing. After that, the technology point of view, we discussed the motion of the charged particle in electric field, magnetic field, and electromagnetic field. Because if you see the high power magnification lenses, or in today's area, if you consider the electron microscope, so in that case the real life applications of the motion of the charged particle can be seen. So with the help of this electric field and magnetic field, we can control the beam size, we can control the path of the electrons. So there are n number of applications you can see with the help of these Newton's laws of motion. In today's topic we are dealing with the system of particles. Suppose if we have a n number of particles, so up till now we consider the single particle, and with the help of that single particle we describe its motion by considering what are the external forces, what are its velocity, what is its mass, and how these particles behave in these in the influence of these external forces. But suppose if you have a more than one particle, suppose if you have a system of particles, chunk of the particles if you have, so in that case how this Newton's laws of motion holds good. So what are the different areas of this study where the Newton's law hold or not hold? Okay, or whether in which condition Newton's law obey. So what are the different types of the forces where the Newton's law is under consideration, and what are the different forces where Newton's law is excluded. So today's topic is something regarding this. Okay, so in today's topic we deal with the system of different particles. If you have a system where particles is more than one, so such kinds of the system can be described with the help of center of mass. Because previously we discussed a single particle and its mass, and what are its position, what is its velocity, and what are its forces acting on this particle. But suppose if we have a more than one particle, suppose we have a system in which suppose rigid body, suppose this is a body, irregularly shaped body we can say, and total mass of the body is, let's say, m. Capital M be the mass of this body, rigid body we can say. But this mass is consist of tiny particles. Suppose if you consider the particle, suppose this is M1, second particle this is M2, third particle this is M3, I be the any particle, Mn. So this system consists of n number of particles. N maybe the n is a natural number basically. So these particles consist, m is the mass of this system, where it consists of n number of particles, m1, m2, m3, and m4. So if you sum up all those masses of the particles, we get the total mass of the system. So from the basic fundas. So if you look at this system by certain points, certain coordinates we can say, suppose O be the points, and from this O points we look at the system, how the system look like. Suppose from point O, if we draw a line from mass m, so this is the position vector of mass m1. Okay, so r1 be the position vector of this mass m1. So this is position vector, so it should be indicated with the arrow. Okay, so r1 be the position vector of mass m1 with respect to origin O. We can choose any origin. I can locate origin over here, and anywhere. So if I look at this point O, and from that point if I select such as points through that the suppose mass of the system is consistent. So m1 r1 be the position vector corresponding to mass m1. Similarly we have this m2 and r2 be the r2 bar be the position vector. Similarly for these r3, ri or rn. Okay, so ri, so this rn. So what is ri basically? I be the any number. It may be the mass of a fifth particle, mass of sixth particle, mass of the seventh particle, or many more. So you can represent I by any number, and n represent the last number of the particle, which consisting and sum of these all those particle makes the total body whose mass is m. So r1, r2, r3, r4, ri, rn be the position vector of this particle m1, m2 with respect to origin O. Okay, so from basic kinematics, so mass, total mass of the system is total mass, yes, total mass of the system is if you sum up all those masses of m1, m2, m3 and mn, we get the mass, total mass of the system. So m is equal to m1 plus m2 plus m3 up to in between, let's say mi plus up to mn. So if you sum up all those masses of these particles, we get the total mass of the system. So I just write this. So since this system is discrete in nature, so there is no such continuous system. So how to replace this? Sum up all these masses. Since we consider the discrete system, so sum of all those masses can be represented with the help of summation sign. Okay, what happens if we have a continuous system? In case of continuous system, we can replace the total sum of these masses by the integration part. So we know this, how this integration and how this summation sign is supposed to be used. So if I sum up all those masses of the system, I replace these total masses by the summation sign, and I runs from 1 to n. So it includes the mass from 1 to n, and I just write this mi part. So let's say this is equation number 1. So this mi is m1 plus m2 plus m3 plus m4 up to mn. So summation I runs from 1 to n. So it includes all the masses of the system. Okay. So what is center of mass basically? Center of mass, definition wise, center of mass is defined as the total mass of the system concentrated at a single point. Okay, the position of the center of mass is such that where all the mass of the body is supposed to be considered. So definition wise it looks like very nice, it looks like very simple, but application wise center of mass is very crucial. So if you consider the example where suppose if you have a car and car is moved on the straight line, since the center of mass is not changing with respect to time. Since car is traveling in straight line, there is no slope of the road and no external forces acting on the car. So in that case, the center of mass of the system remains constant. But suppose if we have a road in which the road is inclined with respect to horizontal axis. Suppose this is the case. So this is a normal road, and suppose the road is inclined making a certain angle, and we have to drive on such road. So in that case, center of mass of the system is not supposed to be changed with respect to this position. So in that case, car is guiding. Okay, so this is normal day-to-day life example, and we already observe such kinds of the observation in many places, not only in case of vehicle. So the center of mass is the mass of the body where whole mass of the system is supposed to be concentrated. So we can write the center of mass of the system. Let's say center of mass. Center of mass is whole mass of the system, point at which whole mass of the system is concentrated. system is concentrated. So this is whole mass of the system supposed to be concentrated with the center of mass. So how to locate the position vector of the center of mass? Because we know R1 be the position vector of mass m1, R2 be the position vector of mass m2, and for all those particles we already know this, what is the position vector. But suppose if you want to find the position vector of center of mass, how to look at this center of mass, how to find the center of mass. So mathematics helps us to find the center of mass or the position of the center of mass of the system. So we can easily calculate the position vector of the center of mass. So the position vector of center of mass is, suppose if you have a R be the position vector of center of mass, so it can be represented as, it is a weighted average of the position vector of each and every point, each and every mass we can say. If we take a weighted average of these, all those center of all these masses, position vector of all these masses of the system, we will end up with this center of mass, position vector of the center of mass. So let's look at, suppose m1 r1 bar, m2 r2 bar, m3 r3 bar, so on up to mn rn bar, and it is weighted average basically. So again m1 plus m2 m3 up to mn. So how to sum up this, since system is discrete in nature? So sum up of I runs from 1 to n, this is mi ri bar upon sum of I runs from 1 to n mi. But what is summation of mi? If you sum up all those masses of the system, yes, but yes, we previously discussed I runs from 1 to n, mi is total mass of the system, capital M. So if I write in terms of this, so position vector of center of mass can be written as I run from 1 to n mi ri bar upon this total mass m, or in other words, so this is equation number, let's say 2, or this equation can be written as summation of I runs from 1 to n mi r bar is equal to r bar. This is equation number 3. So look at these, equation number 2 or 3. What are the dependence? So center of mass of the system is depends on the each and every mass of the system, which consists of m1, m2, m3 and so on, and its position vector from the let's say some coordinates O. We already discussed how to choose this O and so on. So this center of mass is crucial if you want to find what are the external forces acting on the system. If external forces acting on the system, so in that case center of mass of the system, it changes. So in new technologies you can see the vehicle which is not supposed to be travel on the inclined road. So in that case, in new technologies where the car's center of mass, it changes automatically if it is inclined over a certain angle. So center of mass of the system, it changes. So in that case you can find this car is tilted in this way, so that center of mass is aligned in such a way that so that my car can safely travel through this inclined road. So this is all about the center of mass of the system. Suppose if the system which consists of m1, m2, m3 and so on particle, suppose this system is experience the external force. Suppose external force experienced by the system is, suppose this system, let's say if you have a system which is made up of some tiny particles. So suppose if you have a system and the system is under the external force. Suppose if you consider the system which consists of n number of particles, and in the daily example if you consider the sponge ball, if you have a sponge ball which made up of these tiny particles, and this sponge ball is supposed to be squeezed like this. So external force acting on this system experience each and every mass of the system experience that external force. So external force acting on the system is suppose if I squeeze this sponge ball so that each and every component of the system, each and every component of this ball experience the external force. So what is total external force? Total external force experienced by this total system is force experienced by this M1 particle, force experienced by this M2 particle, force experienced by this M3 particle, and so on. If we sum up all those forces experienced by this particle, we will get the total force experienced by this particle, total system. So F external is F1 external, force experienced by the mass M1, plus F2 external plus F3 external plus Fn external. So this is equation number, let's say 4. Okay, so if we sum up all those forces acting on the external forces, I am talking about the external forces. So if we sum up all those external forces acting on the system, we will get the total force experienced by this mass M, which is made up of these tiny masses. Suppose due to this squeezing of this sponge ball, this M2 again interacted with this M1, this M3 again interacted with M1, M3 again with M1, Mn again with Mn, and vice versa. Again, each and every particle, each and every mass of the system interacted in between each other. Okay, so the internal forces again exist. So if we look at these internal forces, if we look at the internal forces exist when we apply the external forces, and if we sum up all those external forces, so while considering the internal forces, so each and every particle experience the internal forces just because of the rest of the other particle. Likewise the electrostatics. So if you have a charged particle and if you have a chunk of the charged particle, so each charged particle experience the Coulombic force just because of the other forces, just because of the other charges. Likewise M1 experience the internal force due to M2, again due to M3, M4, M5, Mn. So if we look at the internal forces, total internal forces acting on this charged particle. Suppose, let's say if I want to find these internal forces acting on first particle, let's say mass M1, internal forces. So it consists of F12 plus F13 plus F23 plus up to F1n. So this is the internal forces acting on first particle. Similarly for second particle, third particle, and so on. So if I want to write the external force acting on ith particle, I may be the any particle. It may be first particle, second particle, third particle, or so on. So if I consider the internal forces acting on the ith particle, how to write? So I just write these summation, or we can directly write. So Fi1 plus F, so it should be internal, no? Fi2 plus Fi3 plus so on, so up to n particles. So again, how to sum up? I is not equal to j, and j runs from 1 to n. So I explain what is this I and j. F ij internal. So what is the meaning of this term? Summation over I is not equal to j, j runs from 1 to n. We are looking for the forces acting on this ith particle just because of the rest of the other particle. If I write I runs from 1 to n and j again runs from 1 to n, it means this m1 particle, suppose if you consider the m1 particle, internal force experienced by the m1 particle on itself, and which is not the possible. So in order to avoid such ambiguity, I just avoid this I is not equal to j. If we consider the second particle, force cannot be experienced by the same particle with respect to same. So in order to avoid such condition, I just write I is not equal to j and j runs from 1 to n. Obviously I also runs from 1 to n, but those I and j values not same. Okay, so this is equation number, let's say 5. So what is total force acting on the system? Total force acting on the system is, so how to calculate total force acting on the system? Total force on, let's say, ith particle how to write? Fi is equal to internal force on ith particle plus external force on the ith particle. So Fi external plus Fi internal. Okay, so this is all. So how to write this Fi internal? So Fi external as it is, replace this Fi internal with summation sign. I is not equal to j, and j runs from 1 to n, Fi internal. So total forces acting on the system. So this is clear. Suppose if I sum up all the forces acting on the system. So this is force acting on the ith particle, particularly single particle. If I want to look at the total force acting on the system, total whole system, which consists of this n number of particles. So how to calculate that force? If I sum up over I, if I sum up over I, so in that case I'll get the total force acting on the system, total force acting on the mass capital M. So for that purpose, if I sum up over I, and obviously I runs from n1 to n, Fi is equal to summation I runs from 1 to n, Fi external plus summation again I runs from 1 to n plus its own summation I is not equal to j, and j runs from 1 to n, F external. Okay, so this is total force acting on the system whose total mass is m. If I replace this total 2 summation with the single summation, how this equation look like? So summation I and F, I is equal to summation I and Fi external plus, suppose if I write this sign over I, j prime is Fi internal. So this summation sign where the summation ij runs from 1 to n prime, Fi internal, excluded the repeated term, excluded J is not equal to I. So we discuss, we want this condition, I is not equal to J. So this prime term indicates that this term is excluded. And how to write these equations? How to write this? Ij runs from 1 to n, Fi internal. So due to these two summation, so first summation indicates that what is the force acting on this first particle, internal, it should be internal force. What is the force acting on this ith particle due to jth particle, and again sum up with over j. So again it represents the what is the force acting on j particle due to ith particle. So this can be written as summation over Fij plus summation over Fji internal. So these two summation side signifies this equation, Fij internal plus Fji internal, because this summation I runs from 1 to n and j again runs from 1 to n. So it again included the repetitive parts. Fij is similar to Fji. So in order to remove this ambiguity, I replace these with these half parts, because if we write this half part over here, so it exclude the what are the remaining, what are the repeated terms. Fij, Fji same, so it multiplies 2 times. Fji again it multiplies 2. So in order to avoid that condition, I multiply half part so that these common 2 terms cancel out. So F1 to F21, F3 to F32. So those repeated terms should be eliminated. So that's why I put this half over here. So Fij internal plus summation over J Fji internal. This equation number, let's say 5 or 6. But according to Newton's third law, what is the statement of Newton's third law? Every action there is equal and opposite reaction. So Fij should be equal to Fji. Force acting on ith particle due to jth particle is similar to the force acting on jth particle due to ith particle. So in that case, but since the direction of these forces are opposite, so if you want to write the relation between these two forces, it should be look like this. It should be equal and opposite. Minus sign should be over there. So this is according to Newton's third law. So if you use this equation in equation number 5, those value equation number 5, so I will get this summation over I j f internal is equal to 0, because ij equal to minus ij, if I replace with this value, it will get coolly cancel out. So it comes out to be 0, and this equation number, let's say 6. So total forces acting on the system is, total force acting on system is F is summation, obviously I runs from, is equal to Fi external, Fi external. This is equation number, let's say equation number 7. So okay, so according to Newton's second law, how to represent this force? mass into acceleration. According to Newton's second law, how to replace these sides? So summation as it is, F replaced by d pi by dt is equal to, suppose, fi external. Since momentum is mass into velocity, since pi is mi vi, if I substitute those values in this equation, so I'll get this d by dt as it is, mi vi, and RHS side as it is. Since mass is not time dependent, so keep it outside the integration, but within this summation sign, so mi dvi by dt is equal to external. So again we know how to write this velocity in terms of position. Yes, velocity is rate of change of displacement, but vi is dri by dt. So if I replace this velocity in terms of position vector, so I'll write this equation as mi d2 by dt square. So this derivative and this derivative, so 2 times derivative of this position vector, so Ri is equal to summation over external. So can I write this mi into the derivative parts? Of course, because there is no such t dependence on this m. Since I can write this over here, there is no change in the equation. So if I write this equation as d2 by dt square mi Ri is equal to summation over I external. So can I write this d2 by dt square outside the integration? So d2 by dt square summation over mi Ri is equal to fi external. Look at this value, summation over I runs from mi Ri. What is this? In center of mass system, we already know that this Ri is equal to summation over mi Ri1 upon summation mi. So what is this term? And since this is capital M, so what is this term? Ri into M, capital M. So this d2 by dt square is equal to, I replace this whole summation sign with this notation. So Ri capital M is equal to summation over I fi external. So I can modify this equation in the easiest way so that we can. So M again constant, can I write outside? So you can of course write this M over here. So or M d2 Ri by dt square is equal to summation over I fi external. This equation, subsequently equation number, let's say 7, or next equation you can write over here. Or this equation again, if I write this, what is Ri into M? Momentum of this total mass M. momentum corresponding to this total mass m. So I can again write this equation as yes, d2 by dt square with p is equal to summation over I fi external. This equation number 8. So look at this equation number 7 or 8. Momentum as well as center of mass of the system is only depend on the external forces. So what is the significance of this equation? So in any experiment in day-to-day life, we experience the many forces acting on the system. Suppose if we consider the spring system. So when force is applied on the spring system, it's supposed to be extended or it's supposed to be compressed. So if you look at the total forces acting on the system and if you solve such kinds of the equation with the help of Newton's laws of motion, so the forces under the consideration should be external forces. There should not be internal forces, because in spring system what happens if you expand this spring or if you stretch the spring, total amount of forces should be the external forces and internal forces. So internal forces due to the elasticity, okay, restoring forces we can say. But while considering the Newton's laws of motion in the spring system, it should be included external forces, not the spring forces due to its elasticity, not the forces due to its restoring forces. So this is the significance of this equation number 7 and equation number 8. So the while considering the Newton's laws of motion, while considering the any problem, and that problem can be solved with the help of Newton's laws of motion, forces under consideration is the crucial part. So for that purpose, people uses different techniques, free body techniques or any other techniques, so that external forces can be analyzed with the very easily. So by aligning the what is the direction of the forces and how these forces can be splitted component wise. So keep in mind, while applying the Newton's laws of motion, forces under consideration should be the external forces, not the internal forces. Okay, so this is all about these total forces acting on the system and how this system of these forces can be chosen while considering the Newton's laws of motion. In the next lecture, we will see what are the different conservation law can be obeyed when Newton's law can be studied, or Newton's law when we apply. Okay, so this is all story of the next lecture. So for today, we'll stop here. Thank you very much.